Good evening, everyone, and welcome. It's time to call this regular school board meeting, today being Monday, July 24, 2023, of the Board of Trustees for the San Felipe Del Rio CISD. Well, first of all, we have to call roll. Madam Secretary, would you call roll?
Yes, sir. Ms. Luna Chavez,
Not
Miss-
here today.
Mr. Overfelt, Ms. Gonzalez. Here. Mr. Mesa,
Here.
Mr. Galindo. Ms. Haynes. And myself. Sir, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Let the record show that we do have a quorum of board members and that this meeting has been duly called in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code Chapter 551. At this time, we will have opening ceremonies, first with a moment of silence for personal reflection, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. We do have one citizen that signed up for citizens' comments. We have Sandra Yanez. The topic being substitute teacher raise. And again, I believe you know what the instructions are. We have a limit of 5 minutes per speaker, and the president has the discretion to stop if we have a lot of speakers, but being that we only have one today, we're okay. You may start.
Okay, good afternoon. Ms. Yanez is running a little late, so I'm taking her place. Hello, Superintendent and school board members. My name is Cynthia de los Santos, and I'm a substitute teacher and leader with the board organization. I am here with fellow substitutes teachers to thank each and every one of you for voting for much needed and deserved a raise. We felt undervalued and appreciate the acknowledgement of our work. We look forward to continue working with you and meeting with you tomorrow, Dr. Rios, concerning the other issue. I don't know if you remember. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. It is not often that we get praise, so we appreciate we appreciate everything. Thank you so much. Okay, next item we have is item 8, reports. First item that we have, facilities and construction update. Mr. Hector Chapa.
Good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, members of the board. Tonight's presentation will review the ongoing projects at Ceniza Hills Elementary, the Cardwell move to North Heights, the electrical buses project, as well as the North Heights parking lot project. Ceniza Hills Elementary Administrative Wing, temporary certificate of occupancy has been attained as of Friday. The next milestone would be the temporary certificate of occupancy for classrooms and cafeteria, which is scheduled for this Wednesday, July the 26th. And lastly, the kitchen certificate of occupancy, again temporary, which is scheduled for August the 9th. The first picture you see is basically the front of the school at its current stage as of Saturday. Landscaping is ongoing currently. The exterior is basically complete. There's a little bit of sidewalk left to be completed. Next picture is the area of the cafeteria as it is completed. This is one of the kindergarten classrooms. And this is a picture of one of the 5th grade classrooms. All the furniture has been installed by our vendor. Said the classroom furniture has been installed, including the non-classroom furniture. The kitchen equipment has arrived and it's being installed as we speak. Landscaping is ongoing. Playground equipment is scheduled for early part of November, rather. And technology is in the process also of doing our connectivity. Currently, we have a combined number of $786,000 left over between our contingency amount as well as other funding. The electrical school bus deployment. As of today, we still receive some edit requests from EPA, so the fund dispersal has not taken place. So we cannot proceed forward to doing the actual infrastructure work until the dispersal takes place. The cartwheel moved to North Heights. The exterior painting has been completed. The sinks have been installed. The toilets have been replaced. The restroom sinks have been addressed also. Ongoing is interior painting. The only thing that's lacking right now is the gymnasium. The reason for that is we had temporarily stored boxes and materials that were going to be relocated to Ceniza Hills, and that was a holding place. And we began to move those boxes and pieces to Ceniza Hills today. So the schedule is for them to, the painter to come in later on this week or early next week, and it'll be about a week's worth of time. Lastly, the parking lot expansion. The contractor is scheduled to put down the mix, the asphalt, later this week, and should be completely done by next week. Any questions?
I'll turn it over to the board members for questions. I have one, sir. In regard to, I know they opened up a street to the neighborhood behind the school. Is that already completed from the city portion?
We're talking about Ceniza Hills. The contractor is in the process of laying hot mix asphalt today and tomorrow. And according to him, he'll be all the way through to the north side to connect to that cul-de-sac on the north side. There's only a gap in between there that is supposed to be concrete, and that's due to the fact that we have a cross drainage channel that cuts across from west to east, and that's going to be concrete, and that's going to be done by J.P. Sanchez. But as of tomorrow, all the hot mix asphalt on the east side of the property will be completed.
So what's the deadline for the street?
By tomorrow, that side will be completed.
Tomorrow?
Except the concrete.
Okay,
And that will probably be most likely by end of next week.
okay, good. Great. Dr. Rios, any other updates in regard to either the park that the city will be cooperating or coordinating with us?
Yes, Mr. Mesa. Regarding the park, I visited earlier today with the construction company, with J.P. Sanchez Construction and with Little Laker, and I told them that as soon as we get school started, really when the teachers come back, that we need to meet to set a timeline for when the rest of the park's going to be completed, because we have a lot of players. J.P. Construction is doing some of the work in terms of the track, and then the landscaper is doing some of the work in terms of the plants and just the seating back there. And then Mr. Chapa is doing some of the work with the managing the installation of the playground equipment. So as soon as the teachers come back and we feel like the major construction part is complete, we'll get together and we should provide an update before the next board meeting or incorporate it as part of the next board meeting once we're no longer updating on the North Heights projects and the San Jose Hills. So
Okay, good. And one other question, Mr. Chapa, in regard to the fire alarm system, does the fire marshal give the final okay in regard to?
Yes, sir. As
Fires.
part of the temporary certificate of occupancy, the fire alarm system has been checked and approved.
It's already been approved?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great, great. Anyone else? Mr. Orfeld?
On the buses, what's EPA complaining about now?
What this specific email stated that as part of what the school district was going to work on, we had to step down transformer from 480 volts down to 208 on our side of the meter, under the district side. And according to the EPA, the transformer was not eligible for reimbursement. So they asked us to modify the proposal from our electrical vendor to remove it for refund purposes.
They want to step down from 400 plus to 200?
The charging equipment requires 208 volts. The power, three-phase, and the power that we're getting supplied by AEP is 480. So once it comes into our system, we need to step it down for the charging system.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next report that we have under item 8 is 8B, Annual Strategic Plan Update. Sandra Hernandez.
Good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. I am joined this evening by several members, committee members from the strategic planning committees who will join me in providing the board with an annual update on the strategic plan. As a recap for our board, if you recall, it was a year ago that the board approved the strategic plan for the 2022 through 2026 5-year strategic plan. We came up, the committee came up with beliefs, a vision, and a mission. Our beliefs of communication and collaboration among families and community and educators are vital. Inequity by providing the resources, support, and motivation necessary to differentiate instruction, and all students should be equipped with a strong foundation of knowledge, including 21st century skills, so they are lifelong learners prepared to be successful after high school. The district's vision, as you see now prominently showcased in our building, our vision is our San Felipe Del Rio CISD, in partnership with our families and community, empowers every student to excel through a culture of collaboration, innovation, and achievement. Pardon me. Our mission of the district provides a high-quality, innovative curriculum with engaging, relevant instruction. We meet the individual needs of students and staff in a safe, nurturing, and collaborative environment, which encourages development and growth. So this year, our committees have come together. We adopted the 5-year plan last school year. And this year, our action planning teams have come together and have worked very diligently on the actions that are tied to these plans. The campus staff have worked collaboratively to implement detailed action steps in these plans and towards reaching each of the goals that were outlined in this particular plan. The plan is reviewed annually, and throughout the year, we've been monitoring it for measured progress. So just to recap the strands and the focus of the plan, There are 4 areas, 4 strands that we call them. The first is focused leadership, highly effective instruction, innovation, and strategic staffing. So these are the 4 areas in which our strategic plan is built upon so that we could work towards improving these areas. So I'm going to pass it along to our representatives, and they're going to talk about the details of the plan and also the steps moving forward for this school year.
Good evening. I'm Jesse Davila. I'm the assistant principal at Del Rio Freshman. Today I'm going to be updating you on the progress of Focused Leadership and Strategy 1. So our goal that we developed last year was that by 2027, 100% of campus and district leaders will effectively support and communicate high expectations for student learning. Our Strategy 1 is to implement a district-wide system of professional learning to develop effective instructional leaders. And how we accomplish that is through the deployment of our principal evaluation and support system. Now, traditionally, our campus leaders' priority is to reinforce existing expectations. You can think of that as discipline, order, and operations. Within our district, there's a fundamental shift for our leaders now to challenge our students and staff into new ways of thinking. Now, that doesn't mean that discipline and order are no longer prioritized. Instead, the principal evaluation and support system is crafted in a way that helps our leadership achieve an ideal balance of both those areas. So last year we came together and we formed our instructional leadership committee. We looked into research-based skills and strategies to deploy with our teachers and improve in student achievement. We developed our instructional leadership framework, that support and evaluation system that we use with our principals, and we implemented a 2-phase training plan to support our principals and our assistant principals, cluster, and department leaders. Now that was done through a T-test calibration in which we broke down effective instruction together as teams and identified what makes it effective. And secondly, through our partners with NIT and Region 13 in partnership for unpacking the TEKs. Now for our next steps for 2023 and 2024, we're going to be reviewing our pre- and post-assessment tool for all campus leaders. This is our tool that we use to gain feedback from our campus leaders and identify the focus as we move forward. We're going to continue to expand our T-test calibration, implementing again that partnership with NIT. In the same way that our students learn better with cross-content and cross-curricular supports, none of these plans and strategies operate with an isolation of each other, meaning when we talk about focused leadership, we also implement highly effective instruction, right? So our coming year, we're going to be focusing on content knowledge and expertise and how we grow teachers, and that's a big part of our T-test calibration going forward. Lastly, we're going to evaluate the T-test practices and research a plan for future implementation, look at the data and see how effective we were this year, and look at how we can expand that going forward. Next, we'll have Ms. Ruby Adams talk about Strategy 2. Thank you very much.
Good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. We are Focused Leadership Strategy 2, otherwise known as FACE. FACE stands for Family and Community Engagement Stakeholders Committee, and our goal remains the same as Focused Leadership. Our strategy, however, focuses on communication. Communication to inform families and the community on the opportunities and the expectations for our students. So the first task that we had was to actually form a FACE committee. So our committee consists of 15 members, 15 stakeholders that include school personnel, 2 elementary parents, 2 secondary parents. We have a business representative, and we have a community representative from Laughlin Air Force Base. So once we formed our committee, we then went to do our action steps, and the first one was to designate a campus webmaster for each one of the schools. We also have a webmaster for each one of our departments, and this is so that each one of these campus webmasters will maintain their school website and their department website. We then created 2 surveys. One survey is for the teachers. So again, dealing with communication, teachers, what is your mode of communication with our parents? How do you communicate with our parents? Is it through email? Is it through Class Dojo? Is it through text? The second survey is for our parents and our community. What is your preferred method of communication? What are some activities, some trainings, some topics that you would like to see at each of the campus trainings? We then went on to create a district-wide communication policy. And this communication policy will focus on public and media relations, crisis communication management, and communication and sharing positive news. We then scheduled family engagement events throughout the school year. Each campus does have a minimum of 1 parent training per campus. We also participated with our district parent conference. We also extended the duties of the family and community engagement coordinator, who is myself, and I participated in all campus and community events. I serve as the liaison between the district and the community. I assist with events and projects. I also link all campuses with community and local resources. And then we do host monthly family educational events at each campus that will focus on math, reading, discipline, attendance, topics that are relevant to student achievement. Moving forward, for our FACE committee, we are going to update our campus webmasters and offer trainings or refreshers. We realize that sometimes our campus webmasters have transferred to another position or have left the school district. So right now we are in the process of assigning a campus webmaster, and if it is somebody that's brand new, then they will receive the full training. If it is someone that's existing, then they will have a refresher. We will launch our survey the beginning of the school year for 6 weeks, and then we will analyze this data and share with all of the stakeholders. We will also roll out our communication policy. All of our parental liaisons in the school district will receive a lengthy in-service training, and it's August the 7th through the 10th, where we will discuss and collaborate on how to increase parent engagement, how to build relationships with our parents, and how to utilize the wonderful community and local resources that we have right here in Del Rio. We will continue to oversee all of the FACE duties, and of course, we will continue to have our monthly campus parent engagement activities utilizing that survey results data on what is it that our parents and our community members want to see at each of our campuses. And that is our FACE committee summary.
Hi, I'm Alda Zuniga. I am the coordinator for the Del Rio Cares program, and I am speaking to you about Highly Effective Instruction Strategy 1. We were tasked on focusing on expanding our district-wide system to support social and emotional needs of all students so that all students can meet or exceed grade level standards. So our action steps this previous year focused on making sure that each campus was able to utilize the T-Chat system, which is the Texas Child Health Access through telemedicine. This allows us to meet the mental health needs of our students, even though there may be a shortage of mental health professionals in our community. We also were tasked to monitor the implementation of the Del Rio Cares curriculum, and we did this by visiting campuses and classrooms, as well as collecting data from all the campuses and making sure that they had all the tools they needed to facilitate this curriculum. We also made sure each campus had a threat assessment team and that all staff had been trained on the threat assessment protocol. That way, everybody knows what to do when a concern is reported. This school year, we will implement a updated Dario Cares curriculum. We have worked on creating 400 PowerPoints this summer so that each teacher can easily facilitate weekly discussions with each grade level with new content, new videos. We will utilize a student survey to measure the effectiveness of the Dario Cares curriculum, almost like a pre and post assessment. We will fine-tune the TChat referral process to remove any barriers that may be causing any delays from submission of a referral to actual receipt of services. And we will measure the understanding of the threat assessment protocol. Thank you.
Good evening. Our next portion is the Highly Effective Instruction Strategy 2. Our strategy was to develop and implement with fidelity a district-wide system of strong data analysis practices to identify student needs, monitor growth, and ensure effective instruction for all students. This boils down to a few key tasks. Update the planning protocol dashboard. So CNI was tasked with making sure all of our curriculum documents were there and aligned to our instruction that we rolled out in planning protocol. All teachers were trained on data analysis through planning protocol. We trained administrators and teachers on all areas of T-Test Dimension 2 with a very narrow focus on Dimension 2.1, which was achieving expectations. During our principal meetings, we all sat together and practiced calibrating so that no matter what campus you go to, everybody recognizes what effective instruction is in the classroom. We then rolled out those practices during planning protocol when we would work on lessons with teachers. What does it look like? What does it sound like? Then we would use our data tools to review, were those effective instructional strategies working? How did we need to refine them? And that was the ongoing process for this entire first school year. So we're going to basically take that same process and move through the next steps in our coming year with a focus on Domain 2.2, which is teacher knowledge and content expertise, which is the whole focus of planning protocol. So planning protocol, we have been in year 2 with K through 5, and now we will roll it out 6 through 12. So those documents are being uploaded, so now we will have this seamless planning from K through 12. And we will be working on continuing best practices for that teacher content knowledge and expertise.
Good evening, everybody. Maribel Flores, principal of not only San Felipe Memorial Middle School, but also San Felipe Memorial Middle School, New Tech. And I'm very excited to share what innovation has done with this strand in the last year. Our strategy, of course, is to provide a district-wide system to foster creativity and promote the diverse learning needs of students. The tasks that you see on these slides have been done part of the latter of last year in the fall and into the middle of the year. So we have surveyed stakeholders on interest in the new innovative programs, developed a marketing campaign, held informational sessions, developed a matrix of components, research, conducted visits to other districts, and determined an application process and hire for teachers for all academies. In addition, we've also developed our application process for students and have begun enrollment as well, not only launch recruitment. Here, recently, we've informed our administrators and our staff of student application deadlines, processes, and applications, qualifications. We've notified students, families, and staff of students accepted into the program. Staff members also have been hired on to teach in these innovative programs. We've provided training and mentoring for staff on leadership, visioning, for STEM, New Tech, and dual language. A lot of that has happened here in the last month of June. And we've also finalized the curriculum framework and written the initial curriculum units, and that was done most of last week. So our next steps, of course, is to update, of course, the District Innovative Programs Committee and schedule meetings for this coming year, provide ongoing training with Region 15 and mentoring districts. We plan to schedule our student showcases for this coming year as well, as early as open houses for some, and also establish the process for cohort year 2, hopefully begin that the second semester.
Good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. My update tonight will be on Strategy 1 of Strategic Strategy. The district's SMART goal is to recruit, develop, and retain 100% of highly effective staff by 2027. Our strategy is to develop and implement a sustainable district-wide system to recruit highly effective staff. This past year, 2022-2023, a committee was developed for teacher recruitment, to include when the teacher recruitment committee would meet. On the district website, a specific tab was created for prospective employees, and a framework was developed that helps attract and retain high-performing teachers through the teacher incentive allotment for cohort 2. The next steps for 2023-2024 is for the committee to continue with the framework that will attract and retain high-performing teachers through the teacher incentive allotment for cohort 3. A survey will be sent to new staff about why they accepted employment to our district, and in addition, the district will reach out to university graduates to inform them of teaching opportunities through the alternative certification programs.
Good evening. Good evening. For Strategy 2, our goal was to create and implement a sustainable and differentiated district-wide system to develop and retain highly effective staff. Our focus was more on the retention piece. Our action steps for last year was to expand the Grow Your Own program, propose partnerships with universities, support emergency certified teachers, survey staff interested in hard-to-fill areas, refine the substitute list, make recommendations to strengthen campus culture, identify and support struggling teachers, develop a system to gather substitute feedback, and provide a tiered system for substitutes. For this coming school year, our goals, our action steps include update and send out an interest inquiry survey on additional certifications in the focus of special ed, bilingual, and P-TECH education to current teachers. Post an updated timeline with study session dates and certification testing information on the district website. Plan and schedule professional development for emergency, alternative, newly hired, and struggling teachers. This includes to collaborate with highly effective instruction. Thank you.
I'd like to thank all of our representatives who have, from each of the committees who have come forward to share a little bit about the strategic plan. As you can see, these committees have come together year-round and have had a lot of work to do. When we first started, we started with a plan and a plan of action. So they have taken this plan and they have begun to start with some of those action steps in each of their areas. And so slowly but surely, they're making some strides. And along the way, what they're doing is they're collaborating, They are working, and they are also identifying more closely those focus areas of need in which they're going to work on this year. At this time, I'm going to ask the board if there are any questions. Please feel free to ask us any questions, and we'll be more than happy to share with you.
I'll turn it over to board members first of all. Ms. Webb?
First of all, congratulations to everybody on the committee. Excellent job. My questions are for Dr. Rios to see if he can enlighten us on the mentoring districts. What districts are we mentoring with? And then which universities are we partnering with?
So I take your questions in for the innovative programs, correct?
Yes.
All right, so where's Sandy? Okay, so for the STEM programs, the last district that we visited with that probably came closest to what we wanted to do was the district in Austin. For the New Tech Middle School, I think that we're all about Manor ISD, and they even came down and made a presentation with us. There is another district that I've been wanting to explore, but I don't want to add too many districts because then there's just too many players pulling us in different directions. But it would be Manor and I'm saying Austin ISD, but Maribel, what was no, I'm sorry.
The ones.
Which one was the district that we looked at STEM that we visited there the whole day? For the elementary school? I'm sorry, the name skips me, but that would be the main one. So it's Manor and the elementary one. I just can't remember the campus name that we went to.
Manor, in terms of when we wrote that up, we were talking specifically about Manor New Tech High School that came down, provided training, and then started us on the process of curriculum writing. So that was specifically that district. We also reached out to Manor Elementary Group. They didn't have room in their schedules, but that was another one that we talked to.
Anyone else? Sandra, this is the most exciting thing that's happening. The wheels are turning, and this plan is off to a great start. There's a little bit of everything, which involves, by the way, some of us attended Blossman Air Force Base the whole day, and the communication part is much needed for military families, we heard, because sometimes we get families that come in throughout the year, and sometimes they miss information regarding activities that are going on, because sometimes they're posted either on Facebook, and that's the only place they might be posted. So the communication, as an example, is a great thing. The focused leadership on the campuses, training staff, and again, desegregating the data, all of that is so crucial. Because again, there's always room for improvement. And of course, what a great plan it is to be able to, again, have that information available for new incoming teachers. I sometimes, as a board member, sit up here and think, we are having such a difficult time finding those teachers in critical needs areas. And then we're also finding that we're not getting people coming into administrative positions. And so it's a great way to train the staff that we have, either through Grow Your Own, or again, focusing the leadership on the staff that we have to be able to promote them to a higher rank amongst the jobs available in the district. So everything sounds great, sounds exciting, that there's so much work that has already gone on that it's amazing to hear everything that is going on, and I'm sure that we'll be much better off.
Thank you, Mr. Mesa. As I remind the board, this is year one. It is a living, breathing document. It's a 5-year plan. And along the way, we're going to find some areas where we do want to navigate. And as long as As they keep navigating, they're going to find some things that we're going to work on and make it stronger and better, but they are done a fantastic job this year, and I'd like to congratulate them.
Great job, great job. Thank you. Okay, next item we have, again, thank you for all the presenters. Thank you for being here and presenting. Next item we have is the consent agenda. Again, one action will approve all items on the consent agenda. There are some minutes, there are some special call board meeting minutes, and there's, again, donations, and so we have very few donations that we'll read out today. So our secretary would do that.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Webb?
Monetary donations. The GEO Group Foundation donated the amount of $13,000 to Del Rio High School. North Heights Elementary alumni donated $640 to North Heights Elementary. And Life Touch Chatterfly donated $669.95 to North Heights Elementary. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Again, if there's any item that needs to be pulled out or question on the consent agenda, and now's the time to do that. Mr. Galindo?
It's not necessarily to pull it, because I'm questioning so much of the amounts or anything. Just if Dr. Rios can just provide an update on F1, 2, and 4 as far as the timeline maybe for these projects or when they would be completed.
Okay, let me look at them real quick, sir. F1.
2010 rooftop unit.
So F1 on the Lamar rooftop unit, as soon as this is approved, Mr. Chapa will launch a PO and get an update from them, but he's giving me a 3. So it's a 3-week period. That should be fairly quick.
Okay.
And then F3 you said?
F2.
I'm sorry, F2. Okay, that, very confident it'll happen before the first football game. I think Coach McCray and Mr. Chapa worked on that together. There should be no delays getting that done before the first football game. Am I correct, Mr. Chapa? Okay. And
F4, just on the fire security.
Security. Okay, that's a pretty big project, and I'm sure that when we meet with Mr. Stidham, he'll give us an update on it as to when he can start. I'll have to give you all an update on that one, sir. We won't know until we meet with him, but I think they did ask for initial time of, I'm recalling 60 days, Mr. Chapa. Yeah.
Okay. Is that something you would try to do during the school year or next?
No, we're gonna try to do that ASAP.
ASAP, okay.
Yeah, whether they work after hours or not.
Okay.
Sir.
Oh, thank you for that, sir. That's my only question.
Anyone else? If no other questions, then any questions on the minutes of the meeting? If no corrections, then I'll ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda. Motion has been made by Mr. Galindo, seconded by Amy Haynes. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry.
Yes, Dr.
Just
Rios.
send me the information. It was Hidden Cove in San Antonio that we looked at the elementary STEM. That's the one we want to continue with. Looked at 2 of them, but that's the one that we're moving with. So sorry about that, ma'am. Caught me off guard.
Okay, next item we go into is administration, and again, that is item 10. Item 10A, consideration to approve the 2022-2023 Superintendent's Evaluation Instrument. Sandra Hernandez.
Good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. This evening, I am presenting to you the 2022-23 Superintendent's Evaluation Instrument. In accordance with BJCD Legal, the board shall appraise the superintendent annually using either the Commissioner of Education, a recommended appraisal process and criteria, which you see attached. You're going to see that the format's just a little different, but it has the same criteria as you see mentioned. It provides your student performance criteria and goals, the performance goals for the superintendent as approved earlier this school year. Now you see the document is attached for your review and approval.
Any questions from board members? We have that under the administrative tab. Dr. Rios, we do have a worksheet that will be filled out again this year? with
Yes, sir. That part does not change. The only thing that changed was, obviously, since you all adopted new goals, then the targets were needed to be updated. But now that they've updated, if it's to your liking, we don't have to do anything for the next couple of years. Obviously, every year y'all can add different targets if you'd like.
You want to give us a timeline as to when the scores come in? All of them?
Yes, sir. See, I think Ida's gonna have to check me on this, but we provided this in the update. We expect the scores to come in no later than, let me open up my calendar here real quick, sir, so I can look at it. We expect that the scores will be in on the week of August 7th. However, the A through F rating will not occur until September. So we'll have scores the week of August 7th, probably closer to August 11th, sir. But the actual rating won't come until later time. And we will more than likely be able to predict the rating within 1 or 2 points like we have before. We've always, Angie Sanchez has always done a terrific job of coming very close, within half a point to predicting it. So I trust that as soon as we get those scores, we'll be able to do that for you. But the official ratings will not be until September.
And you want to, again, remind us of the evaluation date, Saturday?
Yes, sir. So the evaluation date, again, let me open my calendar, will be Saturday the 19th, Saturday 19th of August.
Okay. Just so we can make sure that we have all the 7 board members here. Okay.
We'll have a wonderful lunch for you, sir.
Great. Okay. Okay. Any questions on the evaluation instrument? Then, want to read the recommendation, please?
Yes, sir. It is the recommendation that the Board of Trustees approve the 2022-2023 Superintendent's Evaluation Instrument as presented.
You've heard the recommendation. I will entertain a motion for approval. Motion made by Mrs. Webb, seconded by Mr. Orfeld. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Item 10B, consideration to approve the first reading of TASB Policy Update 121 affecting policies. CFB, CKE local, CKEA local, CLB local, and CRF local. Sandra Hernandez.
Yes, sir. This evening, I am presenting to you a portion of TASB Localized Policy Manual Update 121. We have reviewed a few of the policies. This is not in its entirety. CFB Local, revisions to the policy titled Accounting Inventories are based on amended guidance from GASB, Implementation Guide, regarding the capitalization of assets with individual acquisition costs below the threshold if the assets are in the aggregate are significant, The amended guidance applies to reporting periods after June 15th, 2023. Again, this is the change in this policy is to be in alignment with the GASB guide. CKE local, CKEA local, to better align the district's legal and local policies and provisions addressing commissioned peace officers have been relocated to CKEA local. Security personnel commissioned peace officers, therefore, the CKE local is being considered and recommended for deletion. CLB local, the administrative code rules regarding integrated pest management were amended under CLB local, building grounds and equipment management. So to include district-owned residential property. And again, this is in alignment with the administrative code rules. So the change in this policy simply includes the changes in text to be in alignment with the administrative code. In CRF local, insurance and annuities management, unemployment insurance, there are no significant revisions to the text other than, you'll see at the very bottom of the form of the actual policy, it's just to update and accommodate the adoption date function. That was it. The actual text is the same. It's just the bottom portion, which is the adoption date, is the only change in this particular policy. And these are the only policies up for review for first reading.
Any questions from board members? Again, we do have a policy committee that, again, looks at policies for revisions and first readings. And so these are only a few. When we look at update 121, it has a whole lot of them, so we're bring a few at a time.
Yes, sir.
There being no questions, would you read the recommendation?
Yes, sir. It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the first reading of TASB Policy Update 121 affecting policy CFB local, accounting inventories, CKE local, safety program, risk management, security personnel, CKEA local, security personnel, commissioned peace officers, CLB local, buildings, grounds, and equipment management, maintenance, and CRF local, insurance and annuities management, unemployment, as presented.
You've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion for approval? Motion made by Mr. Galindo, seconded by Mrs. Webb. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Item 10C, consideration to approve the first and final reading of local policy CPC local, records management. Sandra Hernandez.
Thank you, President Mesa. This evening, this particular policy is being presented for change in the designation of the Chief Administrative Officer to oversee the performance of records management functions as prescribed by federal and state law. And this change is so that we're in alignment with the Texas Libraries Commission because of the alignment in who is reporting the information as the records management officer.
Any questions from board members? Hearing none. Recommendation, please.
Yes, sir. It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the first and final reading of local policy update affecting CPC local records management as presented.
For the recommendation, is there a motion for approval? Motion made by Ms. Gonzalez, seconded by Amy Haynes. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Item 10D, consideration to approve and designate a delegate and alternate for the 2023 TASB Delegate Assembly. And again, this is a very awesome learning experience because the Delegate Assembly is the final product of grassroots, where we start with Region 15, and every region submits a resolution if they want something changed. And so resolutions are voted at the Delegate Assembly, and a lot of times we have duplicates and some that are not approved by TASB. And there's time for discussion there where people can go to the mic and again justify the submission, the resolution that they submitted. So the grassroots start the whole process, and then it finally goes as a change in law to the legislative session that goes on for, again, either changes to be made or laws to be made for improvement. And so it's a learning experience. At the same time, we do get credit because before credit wasn't given. You missed a session and you went to a delegate assembly, which takes a couple of hours, And then we have a guest speaker, and so it's very interesting. Normally, the guest speaker is a elected politician that is in the legislative session to give you more informative information where the bills that have been introduced are how they're doing, and if they look favorable or not. And so it's a very good learning experience. I'd like for Mrs. Webb to be the delegate. Mr. Overfeld, could you be the alternate?
Yes, sir, unless there's someone else that really wants to do it. It doesn't bother me. I know I've done it a couple times.
Here. Anybody else want to do it?
I'll be the alternate if that's okay.
Okay, because we've been trying to get involved everybody. So could you be the alternate then? Would that be okay if Amy? And Mrs. Webb? You want to delegate? Okay, we have a delegate, Mrs. Webb, and the alternate is Amy Haynes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
And I'm going to present the recommendation for the board. It is the recommendation that the Board of Trustees approve the nomination of Mrs. Linda Guanajuato Webb as the delegate and Ms. Amy Haynes as the alternate for the 2023 TASB Delegate Assembly as presented.
You've heard the recommendation. There's a motion for approval from Mr. Galindo. Is there a second to the motion? Mrs. Gonzalez. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. And thanks for again agreeing to help. Number 11, curriculum instruction. 11A, consideration to approve the 2023-2024 on-ramps interlocal agreement between SFDR CISD and the University of Texas at Austin Office of Strategy and Policy for the on-ramps dual enrollment program. Ida Gomez.
Good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. Tonight, we are bringing a renewal of the on-ramps agreement between our district and UT in Austin. The on-ramps provides that University of Texas experience where the teacher here teaches the course along with the professor at UT. On-ramps courses align existing equivalent courses at the University of Texas, and it allows our students that higher order thinking, that problem solving. That's pretty much the focus of the course. We do have two teachers. We have Lauren Cardenas, who has been teaching pre-cal, going into her 10th year with on-ramps, and Lisa Nielsen teaches Earth, Wind, and Fire, and she's going into her 3rd year. So again, this agreement has been in existence for a decade now. The fees have remained the same. They're $249 or $199 per student. However, they are reduced to $149 or $99 for students identified as free or reduced lunch. Both our teachers have attended their online training this summer. The district does support that. And although there's no money exchanged, they have already attended the online, so they are prepared. Are there any questions about the renewal?
This is an awesome program that we've had for years, and again, they do such a tremendous job. The teachers and the students really excel in this program, so we're so proud of the University of Texas to provide us with the on-ramps program for high school kids.
Yes, sir.
Any questions? No questions, so recommendation, please.
Yes, sir. It is the recommendation of the administration of the Board of Trustees approve the on-ramps interlocal agreement with the University of Texas at Austin as presented and allow Dr. Rios to sign the agreement.
For the recommendation, is there a motion for approval? Motion made by Ms. Gonzalez, seconded by Amy Haynes. All those in favor? Motion carries.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Item 11B, consideration to ratify a contract over $5,000 with Dr. Belinda T. Is it Scouten?
Schouten.
How do you pronounce it?
Sorry?
How do you pronounce it?
Schouten. Schouten.
In the amount not to exceed $14,726. Funding source, general funds, for consulting services in the forms of training, curriculum writing, and implementation support for dual language academies at Lamar Elementary and Buena Vista Elementary. Dr. Sandra Garza.
Good evening, Mr. Mesa, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. We are asking for approval and ratification of this contract. Dr. Belinda Trevino Schouten was here with our dual language academies last week as we conducted curriculum writing, and she provided embedded training in the process. She also sat with the teachers, went through our local planning guides, and wrote initial curriculum units, both in the English and the Spanish versions, aligned resources. And she also, after hearing that we were really wanting to have more outreach efforts with our community, she offered to speak to our community. So she spoke here on Wednesday night, and we had several families join us that night, and a few of them walked away asking for their children to be signed up. So because that contract came before this board meeting, we're asking for approval and ratification.
Any questions, board members? So when was the public invited, the parents?
It was Wednesday night. Yeah, and we opened it to the public. We posted it on social media. We also sent it out to the entire school community via Skyward, and just shared with them that it was a general topic of dual language and future leaders. So we had some families that didn't have kindergarten students, but lots of questions and lots of engagement.
Good. Okay. There being no questions from board members, recommendation, please.
It is a recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve for the superintendent to sign the contract for services with Dr. Belinda T. Schouten in the amount not to exceed $14,726 for consulting services for Lamar Elementary and Buena Vista Elementary dual language academies.
Thank you very much. I'll entertain a motion for approval. Motion made by Ms. Gonzalez, seconded by Ms. Galindo. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Next item we have is Business and Finance, item 13A. Consideration to approve the resolution to extend the current depository bid contract with Texas Community Bank for another 2-year period for the biennium September 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2025. Amy Childress.
Good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. This evening, I do bring you the resolution to extend with Texas Community Bank. The original depository bid contract was approved by the board back in May of 2017. This will be the final 2-year extension that we can do for this depository bid contract. Once this extension is up, we will be required to rebid the depository contract starting for 2025.
Okay, Dr. Rios, you want to explain a little bit further?
Yes, members of Mr. Messer, members of the board. Over the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about the possibility of rebidding the contract. However, both TA explained, or TA explained that first we need to have a 60-day notice before the contract is due. So we have to renew the contract because they require us to have somebody to deposit our funds with. However, they did advise that we could rebid at any time. So then our goal is to see what's out there in terms of rates for our money. We haven't done too poorly with our investment, but that's mainly through tax pool and our consultant. So we want to see what's out there. We plan to start the rebidding in January, and then at that point, if it's somebody else other than the current bank, we'll either work with them to see if we can move out of the contract, or at least put everybody on notice and start working on a transition, so we can have a smooth transition when we move to the new agent. And that's if obviously Texas Community Bank would not win the bid.
Okay.
So January is the timeline.
Any questions from board members? Okay. We're just trying to get more bang for the money. I mean, it's trying to give everybody an opportunity and then see if it'll be a better opportunity for us to be able to earn more interest. Okay. There being no questions, Rick, you want to read the recommendation?
Yes, sir. It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the resolution to extend the current depository bid contract with Texas Community Bank beginning September 1st, 2023 and ending on June 30th, 2025, and authorize the board president to sign the resolution.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation from administration. I'll entertain a motion for approval. Motion made by Mr. Overfeld, seconded by Ms. Gonzalez. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Next item we have is Human Resources, 14A. Discussion and possible action to approve employee job descriptions and evaluation forms. Aide Garcia.
Good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, members of the board. As we restructure our HR department to assign different roles, we're asking to update their job description to help in their evaluation when they're evaluated, to make sure that it corresponds to their duties. And these would be an update to the receptionist position, to the specialist human resources, to the human resources specialist for substitutes, and for human resources clerk. Also the human resources information system and the human resources coordinator. And again, these would just be updated to correlate with the duties. It does not change on anything on the compensation pay plan as far as different pay grade. Any questions on those before I move to the other two? Okay, the other one, we are requesting a new position. This would be for the Teacher Incentive Allotment and Talent Development Coordinator. This is a position to help us with the different components tied to the TIA. Questions on that job description?
I hope everybody understands the different areas that these employees will be working under. So the teacher incentive allotment, we've been working with it for a couple of years already. And so when is the final year when teachers will be compensated accordingly?
We submit the data to TA in October, and then they will validate it. If it is validated, then we'll pay the teachers next August. Okay, well, the August. And if not, then it goes through the process again. But we're hopeful that everything will be validated, because they're just going to be looking to make sure that there's congruency between the T-test and the student growth.
And Dr. Rios, the funding will come from the state?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mesa, but there's another part to that. The data that we submitted for this last year, that is for the first group of teachers. So then anybody who is not in a position to measure student growth right now, those teachers are in the next group. So this first year, we talked about all the STAR tested areas, pre-K through I guess second grade. Then this coming year, Ms. Ida Gomez and her staff are busy writing beginning of the year assessments and end of the year assessments for anybody who might be in, for example, teaching AP or any of the secondary non-STAR tested areas where we won't have measurement. So that's the second group. But all this will be funded from TA. This last week we visited from other districts that were receiving TIA money already. And initially we thought that it was just a handful of teachers that would get qualified. But we talked to a district that was a little bit smaller than our district, and they had 60 teachers right away qualified. So we're hoping that a whole lot of our teachers meet the qualification, and then as we integrate the second group, that they too get qualified and receive additional money from the state, sir.
Great, great. So, I don't want to ask so many questions, but I know that, you know, there's some districts that initially started way before we did. And so the process takes what, how many years? Just from the start to the allocation?
Yeah, the process really takes, you know, about 3 years. We do the application, and then we start with our cohorts, and then the next year it's evaluated. Some districts started way in advance, but they haven't fully covered every teaching position. So we started a little bit later, but we're very aggressive. In 2 years, we will have encompassed everyone. I think we're cohort D.
We're cohort E.
So there was at least 4 groups that came before us.
Okay. I just hope that we include as many teachers as the small district. Ms. Webb?
I just want to ask, will that include CTE teachers?
Yes, ma'am, but that's the second year, not the first year. So it's in the second,
The third
I'm
cohort.
sorry, the third
Yes,
cohort.
yes, the third cohort. So right now, we're working in the second, and that will be the third.
Great, great. I'm glad we're working towards it. I just hope that it becomes to fruition where teachers will get a 6-digit amount of salary
Yes.
that deserve it. Okay. Anyone else with a question? If not,
And then the final job description is for Special Revenue and Grants Coordinator. This is to convert the current position due to additional duties that come about with the SHARS billing and other, that the Finance Department has requested to convert this position.
any questions? Yes, Dr.
Just to
Ruiz?
be clear, we're converting a position, so we're not gonna post this one job. We have somebody who's already doing some duties. They're qualified to do these additional duties, so we're increasing the pay.
That would be in the compensation pay plan.
But right now, you're just approving the job description. But this is not a job that would be posted. It's that same person in that position. Now, the teacher incentive allotment and talent development, that is a new position that we'll post.
Any questions for Ms. Garcia? Hearing none, you want to read the recommendation?
It is the recommendation of administration that the Board of Trustees approve the employee job description evaluations forms as discussed.
You've heard the recommendation. I'll entertain a motion for approval. Motion made by Amy Haynes, seconded by Ms. Horfeld. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Item 14B, consideration to approve the updated 2023-2024 district compensation plans. Ida Garcia.
In your, by your computer, we added an update to the administrative professional pay plan because the coordinators and the specialists for the grant under the Century Community Learning Center specifies how much these individuals should get paid. And we had placed them at a higher rate, so we're changing it to pay grade 1 instead of pay grade 2. That's what you see there in red, that is stricken and moved up to pay grade 1. On pay grade 4, we are moving the coordinator for special revenue and grants, and then also the coordinator for the TIA and talent development. Those are the only updates to the administrative pay plan. In your board packet, we have the professional pay plan. So again, like we mentioned, we just changed the title of the clerk human resource and the job with the job description, the receptionist for the district. All of those, if you notice, they stay in the same pay grade. as well as pay grade 5, your specialist for human resources substitute, that also stays in pay grade 5. The next update is for your teacher stipends. That is on page 291. Previously, under special education, the speech language pathologist, educational diagnostician, and licensed specialists and school psychologists would complete FIEs in the summer, and that was paid out of a grant. So those were not added at the last compensation pay plan. So here we're including them, and those are being paid through the special ed budget. Next, on page 293, we start with the supplement stipends, and there's none on that page, but the following page, we're including cheerleader sponsor for Del Rio Middle School to have 2. Since now they have a 7th grade and an 8th grade, we're including an additional cheerleader sponsor. And those are all the updates that we have to the compensation pay plan. Any questions?
Questions from board members? No questions. Okay, recommendation.
Yes, sir. It is the recommendation of administration that the Board of Trustees approve the updates for the 2023-2024 district compensation plans as presented.
You've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion for approval? Motion made by Mr. Domingo. Is there a second to the motion? Motion made by Mrs. Webb. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Item 14D, 14C, consideration to approve the 2023-2024 appraisal calendar. Edith Garcia.
Yes, sir. This is an annual board action that we bring. This is from Board Policy DNA, states that the district shall establish a calendar for teacher appraisals and provide the calendar to the teachers within 3 weeks from the first day of instruction. So in your board packet is a copy of the teacher appraisal calendar that will be shared with the teachers and administration. Questions on the appraisal calendar?
298, page 298. No questions. Okay, recommendation.
It is a recommendation of administration that the Board of Trustees approve the 2023-2024 appraisal calendar as discussed.
Thank you very much. Entertain a motion for approval. Motion made by Mrs. Webb, seconded by Mr. Overfelt. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Item 14D, consideration to approve the second observation appraiser listing. Edith Garcia.
Yes, sir. Board Policy DNA also stipulates that a teacher may request a second appraisal from another certified appraiser. So in this board memo, we indicate who those appraisers are, and which includes a campus administrator at the same campus, a campus administrator at a different campus, or a district administrator from the following list, which consists of the chief academic officer, the special education director, or the federal and state programs director. Any questions on this?
Hearing none. No questions from board.
It is the recommendation of administration that the Board of Trustees approve the second observation appraisal listing as discussed.
I'll entertain a motion for approval. Motion made by Mrs. Webb, seconded by Ms. Gonzalez. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Item 14E, discussion, possible action to approve the assistant principal evaluation form under the Texas Principal Evaluation and Support Services, TPES. Edith Garcia.
Currently, our principals are evaluated under the Texas Principal Evaluation and Support System. Also, they just released or the assistant principal appraiser form. And because we're very focused on instruction, this rubric will help the principal have those conversations with the assistant principals to develop them into our future leaders. So we're asking to be able to use this evaluation instead of the current evaluation, which is just based on their job description. Any questions on this job description?
Does everybody understand?
Or not job description, I'm sorry, job evaluation.
Okay. There being no questions, recommendation?
It is the recommendation of administration that the Board of Trustees approve the assistant principal evaluation form under the Texas Principal Evaluation and Support System as discussed.
For the recommendation, is there a motion for approval? Motion made by Ms. Gonzalez, seconded by Mr. Galindo. With a little bit of motion passes unanimously. All those in favor? Okay. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
With a little bit of sound effects from Ms. Gonzalez. Next item is student services, item 15A, consideration to approve the adoption of the 2023-2024 San Felipe de CISD Student Code of Conduct. Sandra Hernandez.
Good evening once again, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. Annually, we present to you for consideration the Student Code of Conduct. This year, the ADA Texas Legislative Session approved and passed several bills that affect the Student Code of Conduct. These include the following: House Bill 114 amends Chapter 37 to make clear that conference, hearings, and review provisions apply to all removals to the DAEP. Also, this bill requires that a student be placed in the DAEP if the student is in possession, uses, or is under the influence of, or sells, gives, or delivers marijuana, THC, or an e-cigarette to another person within 300 feet of school property or at a school-related event. Also, the change here is that the requirement for mandatory expulsion for felony marijuana, THC, and alcohol-related conduct has been removed. So in other words, the expulsion has been removed, and what remains is the placement, mandatory placement at the DAEP. Also, what has the change that you're going to see is that in this particular House bill, if a DAEP is at capacity, then a student who commits an offense related to marijuana, THC, e-cigarettes, alcohol, or an abusable volatile chemical shall be placed in ISS until a place in a DAEP becomes available. And again, this is only in the event that the DAEP is at capacity. The House Bill 3928 amends Chapter 37 to require the district to provide information to students who are assigned to the DAEP. The process for requesting full and individual and initial evaluation, an FIE, to special education. This now, again, we don't require them to complete a referral, but we only provide them with information about referral for a full and individual assessment. Senate Bill 37 amends Chapter 37 as well to remove the requirement for a report of hazing or planned hazing to be submitted in writing. So in the code, if you're reporting hazing, it had to have been in writing. In this, the change here is that the report can be made orally, it can be made written, and as well be made report to a peace officer or law enforcement agency. House Bill 1427 expands the offense of harassment under the Penal Code 42.07 to include making obscene, intimidating, or threatening telephone calls or other electronic communication from a temporary or disposable telephone number provided by an internet application or other technological means. And so these are the primary changes that are made to the Student Code of Conduct. As required, it is required for the Board of Trustees to adopt the changes to this particular document. It has been reviewed by our legal counsel and prepared for tonight's presentation.
Questions, Ms. Wood?
Dr. Rios, what is the capacity of the DAEP, and has our district been at capacity in the last year?
I'm going to say yes, ma'am. The capacity has definitely, especially in the second semester, gone over. And it's based on the number of teachers and the kids we can safely have there. So what we've done in the past is that we have asked Mr. Rodriguez to have early release for kids that complete counseling courses with Mr. Wayne Richardson, that don't miss any days, that have exemplary behavior. But Mr. Rodriguez is here. Rather than me make up a number, can you just come to the podium, Mr. Rodriguez? Because if you asked me, I was going to say 72, but if Mr. Rodriguez may want that number to be more like 54. Sir,
Good evening.
what's your capacity?
My capacity is 75, sir. We've had up to about 81, 82, but not all of them show up at the same time, but we do have early releases for them.
So 75.
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, I guess the next question is, how many students do we have that are using e-cigarettes or vaping that are placed in ISS and still continue to be on the campus?
That rule, ma'am, is for this coming year. We have never placed a child in DAEP for just regular nicotine vaping. Now, as we asked Mr. Lopez to update the handbook for us this year because we were going to be pressed for time. And as he said in his notes, that's why, in other words, the legislature understands that a whole lot of kids have vaping devices that may not include THC, instead they just include nicotine. So they know that would increase the attendance, and that's why they allowed for districts to put students at a campus ISS while they were awaiting placement up here. So that's really something that the state just did that. I know you and I discussed that, and that you had asked us to consider that. Well, the legislature heard you somehow. But now we have to figure out how it's going to affect the district, because between really 6th grade, and I think this last year we had 2 instances at elementary, but between 6th grade and 12th grade, there is a large number of students that have the vaping devices, and they may not have THC in them, but they'll have some form of nicotine. And so we're going to have to figure out how we navigate that. If we had teachers, we could possibly add another teacher to the SGLC, but that's just not the case. We don't have additional teachers to do that. We're going to have to just test it, ma'am, and see what happens.
And I have one more question. Will DAEP be relocated, or are they staying in the same location?
No, DAEP will be relocated, but I haven't taken on that project with operations, just because we really want to get the North Heights transition to Cardwell and everything else that we have. But that is the next project, and there will be a few more rooms available at Cardwell than what we have here. But we don't plan on that move occurring until possibly January. I think January is the earliest we discussed that, correct, Mr. Chapa?
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez.
Thank you.
So Sandra, these will be in the electronic version as well? To parents? Sandra, when is the law conference regarding, well, the University of Texas?
For UT Law Conference is typically September, October. I'll be out on the lookout for that because it's typically very, it is a great conference that just brings a little bit more detailed information about the Texas, the new laws that have come about from the Texas this past legislative session. So I'm looking forward to that as well.
And one more question, Dr. Rios, there will be an extension or another session of the 88th legislative session in September. So will that cause it to be moved down some more?
Well, I think that, I don't think that'll cause it to change. The bigger concern is that it sometimes runs in conflict with some of the conferences that we go to, such as the one in Dallas this year.
Right.
But I don't think the fact that there's a legislative session delay it.
Okay. It's just that it's an excellent law conference, especially pertaining to special needs students and transportation issues. Okay. Then no other questions? Recommendation?
Yes, sir. It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the adoption of the 2023-2024 SFDR CISD Student Code of Conduct as presented.
For the recommendation, there's a motion by Mrs. Webb, seconded by Ms. Gonzalez. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Item 15B, consideration to approve a resolution of the board regarding substantial care by a resident grandparent. Sandra Hernandez.
Thank you, Mr. Mesa, President Mesa. The Texas Education Code 25.001 B9 requires the district to admit a non-resident student into the district if the grandparent resides in the district and provides a substantial amount of after-school care for the student. The enclosed resolution establishes a definition for substantial care and what that means, and authorizes the superintendent to waive the board-adopted substantial care definition on the basis of a student's extenuating circumstances based on set criteria. And we are bringing this resolution forward because we do have some requests from grandparents who do provide substantial care. The child is not a resident of the school district, but they're wanting to become enrolled and admitted into our school district. And so when we can show that there's substantial care provided by the grandparent, the Texas Education Code requires the district to admit the student.
Sandra, so these students, let's say on a Friday, go back, let's say to Ciudad Acuña?
Okay, so let me clarify that this is only for requests from a Texas school district where a student is enrolled in a Texas school district and they're requesting to be enrolled in our school district. This is from only in Texas school districts.
Dr. Rios?
So just specifically, this is for a Bracketville student whose parents work at the hospital here in Del Rio, and they want to bring them. The policy about other kids that come and stay here during the week, that's a total different policy.
Right.
This child will probably go and come every day after mom gets out of work.
Right.
Okay. Anyone else with a question? No questions. Recommendation?
Yes, sir. It is a recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the resolution of the board regarding substantial care by a resident grandparent as presented.
I'll entertain a motion for approval. Motion made by Ms. Gonzalez, seconded by Mr. Galindo. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, the time is 7:35 p.m. There's no other item on the agenda. We're going into closed session. pursuant to policy 551.074 and 551.071. If any action needs to be taken, it will be taken upon reconvening into open session. We're now in closed session. Okay, the time is 8:29 p.m. We're reconvening into open session. No action was taken in executive session. We're down to item 18A, consideration to approve the personnel report to include the following: new hires, district vacancies, retirements, resignations. Aide Garcia.
Yes, good evening again, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, members of the board. It is the recommendation of administration that the Board of Trustees approve the resignation, vacancies, and following new hire. Socorro Zapata, pre-kindergarten teacher at Irene Cardwell Elementary. Valerie Gaun, first grade teacher at Dr. Fermin Calderon Elementary. Arui Guerra, second grade teacher, Dr. Fermin Calderon Elementary. Francis Sanchez, second grade teacher, Garfield Elementary. Luis Villasana, fifth grade teacher, Garfield Elementary. Julie Wise, second grade bilingual teacher, Lamar Elementary. Victor Carrillo, Del Rio Middle School, assistant band director. Jermaine Williams, special education co-teacher, Del Rio Middle School, 7th grade. Jesse Reina, social studies teacher, Del Rio Middle School, 7th grade. Leslie Villarreal, health teacher, Del Rio Middle School, 8th grade. Sue Perpinski, juvenile detention teacher, student guidance and learning center. And Francisco Lopez, maps teacher for Blended Academy.
You've heard the recommendation from administration. Is there a motion for approval? Motion made by Mr. Orfeld, seconded by Amy Haynes. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 18B, consideration to approve the position of ESL bilingual strategist for Dr. Fermin Calderon Elementary. Aide Garcia.
Yes, sir. It is a recommendation of administration that the Board of Trustees approve Ileana Garcia Williams as bilingual ESL strategist for Calderon Elementary.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion for approval? Motion made by Mr. Galindo, seconded by Mrs. Webb. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Item 18C, consideration to approve the position of positive behavior interventionist and support liaison for the Student Guidance and Learning Center. Aide Garcia.
Yes, sir. It is a recommendation of administration that the Board of Trustees approve Mario Ariola as the positive behavioral interventionist and support liaison for the Student Guidance and Learning Center.
For the recommendation, is there a motion for approval? Motion made by Mrs. Webb. Is there a second to the motion? Mr. Orfeld, seconded the motion. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Item 18D, consideration to approve the positions of Director, 21st Century Community Learning Center Program for the Curriculum and Instruction Department. Aide Garcia.
It is a recommendation of administration that the Board of Trustees approve Vanessa Martinez as the 21st Century Community Learning Center Program Director for the Curriculum and Instruction Department.
For the recommendation, is there a motion for approval? Motion made by Ms. Gonzalez, seconded by Mr. Galindo. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. We're tabling item E and item F under 18. There being no other items on the agenda, is there a motion for adjournment? Motion made by Ms. Amy Haynes, seconded by Mr. Galindo. All those in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you and good night, everyone.